Hello everyone and welcome back. I am Ala Veloci and today we are in Switzerland on the southern shore of Lake Brienz, in one of those places that stops you the moment you arrive. This is Iseltwald. Let's go. We leave the car behind at the village entrance. There is no other way into Iseltwald. No through road, no shortcuts. You walk in or you arrive by boat. That alone tells you something about this place. Iseltwald sits on the southern shore of Lake Brienz, tucked into a small bay where the forested slopes of the Bernese Oberland drop sharply to meet the water. Around 400 people live here. Traditional wooden chalets line the lakefront, balconies stacked with flowers, boats resting quietly in the harbour. The main street follows the curve of the shore. There are no crowds pushing past you, at least, not yet. The lake in front of us is that particular shade of turquoise that feels almost artificial until you understand why it exists. But we'll get to that. For now, we walk. From the village, a well-marked path follows the southern shoreline of Lake Brienz toward the east. The destination is the Giessbach Falls, roughly 5 kilometers along the water's edge. At a relaxed pace, call it 2 hours. There is no reason to hurry. The path stays close to the lake for most of the route, occasionally climbing through the forest before dropping back down to shore level. The water beside you shifts, colour depending on the light, deep green in the shadows, almost electric blue where the sun hits it straight on. The mountains on the far shore rise steeply out of the water with almost no transition. This is not a gentle landscape. It just happens to be a quiet one. Lake Brienz sits at 564 meters above sea level. It stretches 14 kilometers in length, nearly 3 kilometers at its widest point, and plunges to a maximum depth of 260 meters, making it the deepest lake contained entirely within Swiss borders. That depth matters more than it might seem. It means the lake almost never freezes. Not even in the legendary winter of 1963, when Lake Zurich turned to ice, did Brienz fully freeze over. The colour you are looking at right now, that vivid turquoise, has nothing to do with warmth or shallow water. Lake Brienz is one of the coldest and purest lakes in Switzerland, almost too clean to support significant fish populations. The colour comes from glacial rock flour, microscopic particles of ground-up stone suspended in the water, carried in by the Aare and the Lütschine rivers from the high valleys above. These particles scatter sunlight in a way that produces that specific shade of blue-green. You are essentially looking at suspended geology. Before you see the Giessbach Falls, you hear them. The sound builds gradually as the path rounds the last bend, a low, steady roar that rises out of the forest ahead. Then, the white water appears through the trees, a long cascade dropping down the cliff face in stages, each tier feeding into the next, before finally reaching the lake. The Grand Hotel Giessbach sits above it all, built into the hillside in the late 19th century, looking exactly like something from an era when people came to places like this to rest for weeks, not hours. The Giessbach stream originates in the Faulhorn Massif, above 2,000 meters. By the time it reaches the lake, it has fallen approximately 400 meters across 14 distinct tiers. The result is not one single dramatic plunge. It is a long layered descent through forest and rock, with the falls appearing and disappearing behind the trees as you move around the base. Standing here at the base, the spray reaches you even from a distance. The lower tiers fan out wide before narrowing again, and if the recent weeks have brought rain or snowmelt from above, the volume can be considerable. The historic funicular, the Giessbachbahn, built in 1879, connects this landing stage to the hotel above. It holds the distinction of being the oldest tourist funicular still operating in Europe. A single track, wood-panelled cars, and a climb of about 100 meters. We are taking the boat. The lake boat service connects the villages along both shores of Lake Brienz from spring through autumn. From the Giessbach landing stage, the return to Iseltwald takes roughly 15 to 20 minutes depending on the service. Out on the water, the scale of the lake becomes clear in a way it never quite does from shore. The mountains on the northern bank rise directly from the waterline. No gradual foothills, no buffer. On a clear day, the reflections on the surface are almost perfect. The paddle steamers that run on this lake have been doing so since the 19th century. The Lötschberg, still in service, is a genuine steam-powered vessel, one of the last operating paddle steamers in the Alps. As the boat rounds the bay and Iseltwald comes back into view, the first thing you notice on the peninsula is the Schloss Seeberg. Built in 1907 by a Bernese merchant named Gottfried Siegrist, it was designed as a private villa in a southern Mediterranean style, an unusual choice for an Alpine lakefront. Siegrist died before the building was finished. His widow had the windows fitted and then left the building empty for the better part of 20 years, home to bats and little else. In 1927, it passed to a diaconal association that used it as a convalescent home, then a school, then a rehabilitation centre. It has been private property since 2015. You cannot go inside. From the water, though, it looks exactly like what the locals have always called it, a small castle on the lake. Back in Iseltwald, same harbour, same boats, same mountains across the water. But the light has shifted, and that changes everything in a place like this. The pier here became unexpectedly famous when a South Korean drama series filmed a scene at its tip, sending waves of visitors to a village of 400 people who mostly just wanted to get on with their day. The pier itself is a simple wooden structure stretching into the lake. What makes it work as an image is the combination of elements: the length of the jetty, the clarity of the water below, the mountains framing the background, and that uninterrupted turquoise surface that makes the whole thing look slightly unreal. Iseltwald has been absorbing visitors for a long time. Long before any streaming service discovered it, travellers came by boat across the lake to walk the shore and look at the water. The village did not change much to accommodate them. It is still small, still quiet by any reasonable standard, and still best understood at the pace of a slow walk along the waterfront. The boat that brought us back is already gone. The light on the lake is different from this morning. Warmer, lower, less forgiving of anything that doesn't deserve to be here. Iseltwald, it turns out, deserves to be here. We'll leave the car where we parked it. If you made it this far, thank you. It means a lot. If you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button and join the channel. There are more roads, more passes, and more places like this one waiting. I will see you on the next one.